Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of Stuck Between a Rock and a Hard Place. I have my co-host here, Jay.
We're back.
And I am Greg. Today is a little frigid, so I got the thick coat on.
Yep.
Jay's going to try to muscle through this and make it through this podcast before we freeze. But today we wanted to tackle tool lists for first-time home buyers or people who are just getting into taking care of their home by themselves for their first time. And Jay and I put together our own lists, and we haven't really shared these. So I'm interested to see what we have overlap and maybe what you have compared to what I have when it comes to this list.
Sure. And, Greg, it's funny because we're a little generational gap here. I look young enough, but, when you get a new home, you have a list of essential things that have to be done. And you don't even know what's coming at you half the time. And there are a lot of things that you don't want to have to, have farmed out. You want to be able to take care of these things, whether it's to learn about how to take care of your home or it is to protect that home or to maintain that home. I mean, that is your new, you have responsibilities, you have this kind of investment that you put a lot of money into, and there's going to be inevitably tons of things that are going to come up immediately as a new home buyer, and whether you're prepared or not, you're going to have the tools that are necessary.
Yes, yeah. When somebody jumps into purchasing a home, that thing is now strictly your responsibility. You no longer are renting from somebody with a landlord that might take care of some things like that. It is all on you. So whether you're going to go out and maybe hire a pro or do it yourself, we do have a podcast on that helps you decide if it's a project that you're going to tackle yourself. But there are things that pop around the house that is definitely something you should be able to handle yourself. Whether your skill level is beginner all the way down to more and more experience. So
right, and we thought this was important, and again, we know that out there in the hive, we've got so many intelligent, responsible homeowners, but you've had your home for several years, maybe even decades. So this is going to be a little rudimentary for some people, but for the people that need it, and maybe a refresher course to make sure your tools don't have gaps in them. This could be a good podcast for you to listen to as well. When you have this investment, you get to a new home, you have a new mortgage. Why do you want to make sure you have all these tools in order? Is because money is going to be flowing out of your home, such as heating bills. Okay, you're going to have taxes that are going to be going up and down. What you want to be able to do is save in those little areas, like fixing the hole in maybe some drywall. Plumbing issue comes up, installing a new faucet you didn't know was going to need installing, and those are going to require the tools. So that's really why we wanted to lay this out there.
And I'm glad you talked about how long some of our viewers have owned their home. A tool set is actually a journey, right? This is the set that you're going to start with, but this is not the start and the end. Tools grow, as you can see from behind us in our previous podcast, the shop on the other side. It is going to constantly grow depending on the project you come about. But you don't want to be financially irresponsible and think you need to go out there and buy everything right off the bat. This is a toolkit that is going to take care of pretty much the basics that are going to pop up. And as other things come about, if you decide that you're going to go ahead and tackle that project, that's when maybe you go out and you buy more and more specialized tools.
Correct. This is the car that gets you from A to Z.
Yeah.
It is not the Cadillac or the Porsche of tools. These are to get you ready and prepared for those essential fixes that are going to come up with new home ownership.
Yeah. And that being said, a piece of advice that I just heard from another YouTuber, and I apologize, I surf so much on YouTube, I don't remember who actually said this, but it was something into the effect of, if you're getting into a new hobby, buy the cheapest tool at first And once you find that you're into it and you want to do it, then you can go ahead, once that tool breaks, and invest into the bigger piece.
Correct. I mean, that's an excellent piece of advice because, again, you want the general tool set, not the royal, the royal flush of tool sets at this point. You want to just be able to have a tool that's going to fix that specific project. You're not going to be learned enough on the tool or maybe even the project itself. You're going to be learning as you go, and you want to learn on a basic set. So when you do end up putting that money toward an expensive tool, you know which tool you want for the job. That takes time. That takes years of working, doing it yourself at home projects for you to really know and to invest in those kinds of tools.
Yeah. From my own personal experience, I kid you not, my first tool set was gifted to me by my parents, and I'm pretty sure my mom won it in like church bingo.
Yes.
It was one of those full kits of, the basics that were in there. The tools quality was at a minimum, could use and hope it doesn't break. Mm-hmm. But it at least gave me something to get started with.
Right. So in my case, what I got was the old rusted out tools that my dad probably didn't need anymore, but I was happy to have. And to be honest with you, I do not display all my tools even to this day. I'm ready to get in there and get dirty with them, so I didn't have a problem with that. These were functional tools, and in some ways I actually caught a nice tool every once in a while in this, and they were pretty heavy duty, and I enjoyed that. So I could get in there, get these projects done, not worry about what was going on. So if you have a family member who's willing to gift, take everything you can, but we want to make sure that you're not missing and have a big glaring hole when you're going to, try and fix these projects yourself. So Greg, what I want to do is I want to, take a moment here to talk about, the whole why you would start out with basic tool sets. Why am I not looking at the Milwaukee brands? Why am I not looking for the tool that does everything, one tool that does everything? Why do I have to buy a tool box and fill it with a bunch of basic tools? Why would I do something like that? Well, I think you already discussed one of them, and that is, are you going to beat up on that tool? And you don't need to be spending all the money. I, another time, also wanted to talk about the fact of, at this point, you are learning those skills to use those tools. There are going to be tools in that chest that you're like, is this the right tool? Mm-hmm. Is this the right tool for the project? Does the project need more than what I have in my tool chest? And that kind of experience level is something you've got to start from the basics. Our fathers used to say, hey, you got to sweep the floor first before you can run the office. This is a perfect example of why you would start with the basics because, once you've learned that tool, you know what your next step is, at least in your tool journey, as we talk about.
Yeah, and you can definitely learn what tools you gravitate to use more and which ones are one-offs. So you can save you a little bit of money there.
Oh, yeah.
And, invest a little bit more in the ones that are always being used.
That's right. And, for, tool guys like us, it took years to understand, but what you're going to find out as you're building your tool set and you finish projects is it's pretty cool to be able to know and have the confidence that you can fix, let's say a leaky pipe, a leaky faucet. You got some electrical issue that you didn't think you could do, but because you had the tools and you had the maybe a little bit of guidance either from YouTubers like ourselves, okay, or a family member who come out, next time you can do this all on your own. And the beauty of the best is you save money and it's an immediate fix.
Right.
Instead of waiting on somebody else's time because you've stacked enough tools in the house to make sure that you can get some things done.
So let's go ahead and dive into our list. I actually was irresponsible. I don't have mine in a particular order just because I feel like they're all just necessary tools.
Correct.
So it's kind of as it came to my mind as I walked around the house and looked at my own tool set, what I thought, yeah, that's definitely was a needed tool, or this one I don't pick up very much. So let's go ahead and dive into our list. I'd love to hear, though, what you have on yours.
Oh, sure. I would begin, with the basic of all things, the hammer.
Yep.
I mean, you have an essential tool here when you're picking up a hammer, whether it be nailing something, tearing a screw out of the wall, pounding a door back in place. Things will happen around the house, and the hammer is, to me, the number one Thor-based tool that every man should have, and every woman, any DIY, or that's the big one, and pretty basic. You know what I mean? You just need the something to pound on one side and a claw hammer on the back to pull things out.
Exactly. I actually had a hammer on as well, and I thought, because you say hammer, and then there's you got your ball peen hammers, you got your claw hammers, your framing hammers, even your sledges. I thought one that every homeowner should have is probably like a 16 ounce with the claw on the back.
Oh, sure.
That way, you can remove a nail here and there, and it's going to do pretty much what you need it to do, where some of the other ones are more specialized, and they can't be used. They're not as versatile as I felt like that hammer when it comes to a homeowner and things they're going to come across. So when you're looking for a hammer, that's what I would be targeting. Whether it's a fiberglass handle, a wood handle, metal handle, really just get something that feels comfortable in your hand, but that 16 ounce with the claw on the back. Yeah.
I would think the next thing on my list, if you're still asking, would probably be the screwdriver sets.
Yes.
I mean, this is where you can spend a ton, but we recommend staying small, because the screwdriver set is going to be definitely something that's going to get abused and used a lot. Whether you're fixing a bike, putting together a new piece of furniture, or scraping things off the floor. These screwdrivers are going to go through some abuse.
Yeah.
But they are essential for just about anything in the house.
Mm-hmm. I had screwdrivers as well, and once again, I'm thinking through. Now, they do have ones that are bit changers, or you're like 5-in-1s. I like those.
Yeah.
I really do. Especially the ratcheting ones is super comfortable. Makes the job that much more easier, just because you're able to really just get screws and start flowing into the project. I have, though, come to points where, because they accept a bit, the neck on it is wider and it hasn't fit into gaps that I need to get into. So when you're looking at screwdrivers, I almost would gravitate towards maybe a less expensive set of flathead and Phillips.
Correct.
And then supplement with the bit one.
Yeah.
The only reason I say that is because of that situation that I've come across so many times, that bit one is just too wide and won't fit into the gap I need to fit into.
I actually love that you brought this up, because this is actually something I wish I would have brought up earlier when we started this. I personally believe that you need to start with full sets. Mm-hmm. Shrinking your set down, getting universal tools is a great idea for somebody who knows the tool that they need from the get-go. You make a great point that when you have a full set of screwdrivers, it's easy to grab the one that you need, that fits, that the sizing of it's that's gonna fit the screw that you're using. But if you start getting into the shorten up your tool base, okay, you may find yourself breaking one piece of it off. It may not even hold up as well. It may not fit the job as far as the neck on the screwdriver is concerned, as you had mentioned. So I would suggest losing the bits. Correct. Oh, there we go. I mean, you're talking about smaller parts. A nice screwdriver set, obviously said Phillips and flatheads. It's a beautiful thing to be able to, and if you need to only bring a certain amount of tools to a certain workspace in the home, then just bring the ones you need. Mm-hmm. And that's the best thing about it. You also get the idea of the importance of using the right size Phillip head.
Yeah.
You don't want to strip a screw because you're trying to use this universal. So I would stay with your basics to start off, and then as you learn how to use your tools, you start doing what I would call either the consolidating or the upgrading.
Yeah, yeah. And getting more into the specialized tools that are out there that really kind of fit more niches.
Yeah, so because we can really rip through some of these. So let's kind of go to the next, what I think is pivotal. And these tools usually play into each other and help each other out. Pliers.
Yes, yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah, so you have a lot of different size pliers as well. I think the essentials are probably the needle nose plier. You can go into the other ones.
Yeah, I was thinking definitely pliers. My first thought right away was a needle nose, insulated as well. Just because those do come across when you're working on electrical. Yes, you should kill the power, but just in case, get ones that are insulated. The other one I was thinking of is the slip joint plier as well. I think those two are essential. And the slip joint, I would get two sizes, Get a slightly larger one and then the smaller ones as well. Right. Now,
are these the ones you're talking are still kind of like the lock? I mean, they're not.
Yeah,
they're not. You're right.
The old school ones, you actually had a pivot and then slide into place. Now the new ones, they actually have a button that you can slide up and down and get to the correct size of it. But those are actually going to come in handy really when you got your nuts and bolts and maybe you haven't moved on to more appropriate tools for that. You can get away with it. Also, when you're talking plumbing, those things come in handy quite a bit.
Yeah, and you're going to find that you're going to be using those to reach for things as well, and using in wiring, that kind of thing. A lot of these will come with some wire cutters, clippers, whether you're trying to clip a string, what have you. So wire cutters as well would probably fall into this category of pliers. The next one we probably go to, or at least I would in my list, is wrenches. Now you're talking the plumbing. Mm-hmm. Now you're talking exactly these kind of handled tools that can reach into things, turn things, grab things, cut things. You're gonna want a nice set of those. And I would go, when you said insulated, I first thought also grippy. You're going to be reaching for things. You're going to be torquing on these things. And when I was gifted my set, they were all metal handles, and I didn't like that because they were cold in the winter. A lot of times I'm working around the porcelain toilet, and I don't want those things, chipping the porcelain toilet or putting a dent in the wall. Sometimes that can keep, non-marking or, something metal hitting your walls when you're trying to get into places. So I enjoyed having those handles as being, either grippy or, cushion, or some of them were called dipped handles back in the day, rubber handled ones. I would suggest those.
And I love how you brought up the wrench sets that they have, where they're standard, there's metric as well. One piece though, if you're not ready to completely get a wrench set, which there are ones that are out there that are pretty affordable, I was actually thinking the adjustable wrenches, also known as your crescent wrench,
right?
Because that's the biggest brand that was out there back in the day that made these things. But you can get away with you need a couple of them, because one thing you got to think about is you got the bolt on the one side and the nut on the other. So you need to get one wrench on one side to hold it in place while you tighten the other side. So again, just like the slip joint pliers, I would get at least two sizes of those.
Yep.
But if you're not ready to get the full wrench set, that can at least carry you until you can get that.
Right. So, like I said, so let's kind of move on. And I think an essential one that probably starts a lot of projects instead of fixing them is a tape measure.
For sure. For sure. Now, again, though, that is a tool that comes in a crazy amount of ranges.
Oh, yeah.
So when I thought about a homeowner, it's somebody who is maybe measuring whether they can get a certain piece of furniture in a room, maybe trying to figure out the square footage of a room, to figure out how much paint they need, measure something here and there, maybe putting a picture up or something like that. So for the versatility to cover all of those, I thought a 24-incher would be more necessary. There are smaller ones, there are bigger ones too, which I don't think any homeowner needs.
No.
The smaller one though, like say, your little 12-inch is not going to be able to measure a whole room. So that's why I settled on a 24-inch.
Yeah. Well, and let me get this. I think are we talking a 25-footer?
Yes.
Okay. This is where once in a while, I got it right.
Yeah.
So, but yes.
Yes, a 25-footer.
Yeah.
Over
the 24
12, definitely over the 24-inch. Over like the 12-footer or something like that. It's going to cover what you need.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I think if you're a first-time home buyer and and your rooms are over 25 foot, God bless you. But the fact is, most of the time, that's going to cover, like you said, flooring issues, new door, moving furniture in and out, figuring out that next piece of drywall that needs to fit. I think that makes sense, and it is actually a very welcome size for as far as being able to put it into a toolbox and things like that.
Yeah.
So
now to go with how that tape measures pretty much in the start of a project, one I thought was that is needed for projects like that is a level.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and once again, like we've said how many times, there is so many out there.
Yeah.
For a homeowner, I actually think you can get away with the little torpedo, especially if you're hanging like a shelf or like a picture. That would do enough. If anything, maybe jump up to like a 24-inch. But anything bigger than that, I think you can add in the future if you need.
Right. I mean, a level, it's funny because people think that a level is, simply to, fix up a photograph on the wall to make sure things are level. But that's not really how it is. Sometimes you have to measure a floor if it's going to be level. You may need to adjust, your tabletop.
Yep.
To make sure that it's level. Not as well as when you're setting up different kind of projects. You want to make sure everything's on the same level, to say the least. But with that being said, I would think that a right angle would be an important tool as well.
A square.
A square.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, it's funny. Squares are usually triangles. And but with that, these are the kind of things that used in conjunction together really get your projects going.
Yeah.
So, a nice one of those would be super important. I think another one would be a job light. I mean, back in the day, we would we would just use the old flashlight. Mm-hmm. But that's, the day of LEDs are here, and now you can pick up a really cheap, maybe shop light, whether it's one that can sit, at your project by itself, or, they got ones that go on your cap.
Yeah.
Whatever preference you have, but, inevitably you're going to find yourself in the dark at some point fixing a project, or at night at dusk, or in the garage where you simply can't get the light perfect under the hood, and you're going to want this project light to shine the way. So,
yeah, I did not have a shop light, but I did have a flashlight, and I felt like you could get away with most of the stuff that you need with the flashlight. I actually thought, though, a battery-powered one over a rechargeable one, I have both.
Yeah.
But there's been times where, well, you know me, I have like a million flashlights, right? And I grab one that's rechargeable and it's not charged. And you don't want to be in the instance where, say the power goes out and you need to get down to your electrical panel or something like that maybe something tripped.
Sure. And
you need to see in there. And the flashlight is dead. So if you have batteries that you can quickly change, I think that's great. The other thing I was thinking is if you're in a tool line, the flashlights that run on your tool battery power packs, because majority of the time you're keeping those charged and ready to go.
Sure.
You can clip those on and actually use that almost as a job light as well, because they have the base, so you can just sit it, point it where you need to. So you're taking care of essentially the flashlight that you need maybe in emergency, as well as the shop light. So just something to think about to maybe if you don't feel like you need the shop light right off the bat, maybe one of those, tool line powered.
Well, and let's go right into that then, because first time home buyers, there's so much out there. The one upgrade that I would say you'd probably do right off the bat are going to be the cordless drill.
Yes.
Now, and that pulls right into, that same battery could work with one of the flashlight options. And again, in this line of power tools, I would start small. The lithium batteries have changed. What I used to think was you would need a plug-in drill, plug-in, a plug-in electric screwdriver. Now this tool can be run on the lithium battery, which is interchangeable. So I would start small with just your basic, maybe, regular hammer drill. If necessary, maybe it's 2-in-1 on that, and then one that battery can be moved into, let's say, the flashlight. And these would be, these are kind of essential this day and very commonplace. I mean, I'm not. The one thing we're not trying to do is take you back to the 50s. All right. I mean, we're not being silly here, thinking that today's tools are better.
Yeah. You're not busting out the old hand drill, right? To get in there.
Well, when you talked about a flashlight, there was one time my father gave me 2 flashlights that you cranked.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Did you ever see those?
Ones,
the emergency ones.
Sometimes they had a radio
and
with
they
it
were
too.
cool, and the kids thought they were great, but they were never ready.
Yeah.
And that's just not the point. And ultimately, when you're going to need a light, you're going to need that drill. You're going to need a little more power. So that's where these lithium ions and these cordless tools are going to come essential.
Yeah, and I have that as well. For me, when I'm going though, that is one tool when I'm looking to purchase. I want to explore the tool lines that is in.
True.
There are cheaper tools out there that battery though is only going to fit that drill.
Right.
This is where you find yourself almost locking into a tool line. Now, in our first podcast when we talked tools, we kind of broke down this thought process of once you're in a tool line, you need to stay in that tool line, because the days of I have a DeWalt, now I'm all DeWalt, I have Milwaukee, all Milwaukee, Ryobi.
Sure.
We've kind of expanded from that. But when you go to look to get your first power drill, that's when you should look at the whole wall that's available and see other tools that you might need that are out there. And if there's another wall in another tool line that has some of these tools that you're like, I can see myself purchasing that in the future, that might drive you to make a purchase in maybe an upgraded tool line than you normally would. Not saying, we've talked, Ryobi has a plethora of tools and it's a lower tool line.
Right.
It still gives you a lot of versatility. But there's tool lines like Black & Decker, unfortunately, is dying. It's coming off there. There's the Hart tool line that was carried at Walmart that they're pretty much, it looks like they're scrapping that.
Yeah, see, so this is where I think, again, and I've said this before, tools become very personal. How you do your job becomes very personal. I think we differ here, because I would not look to get into a tool line. My thing when I was first coming out was I just want simplicity, and only now after trying multiple tools, seeing the limitations of a tool, as well as a price point when I'm young.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe you had a better budget than I did when I was young, but I had to do the Black & Decker line, which is funny you say that, because Black & Decker actually had a much better reputation when I was young.
Yes.
However, those batteries would die, but that was a price point that I could handle. I mean, I did a lot of Sears tools. Okay, so a lot of times the Craftsman and things like that, that was the top of the line. I had to go cheaper to make sure that I could buy all these tools for my home. So I kind of recommend on my side to just literally stay into a one tool basis until the line you may want to go into. Now, if you have somebody else gifting you one, these are great Christmas presents, by the way. Fantastic Christmas presents. Yeah. Especially if let's say, you've got a lot of people. Yes, housewarming presents. Things that, you have relatives who are willing to, let you try into those lines. Now I'm all for it. Okay, but I like to keep it simple and cheap in the beginning, and then work my way up. It actually gave me gratification to know the tool I needed next, to know the limits of what I had, and go into a store, and instead of looking at that wall and being confused and maybe overwhelmed, I'm like, well, now I can scrap 30% of this wall. Now I'm looking at the mid-grade tool, or I'm done with the mid-grade. It's time to go to the top tool. Time for me to really invest. And that's, and I don't think you differ with that anything as much as
I actually think
just
we actually more
one.
agree on it. But to talk, when you were first starting, your Black & Decker and your Craftsman were that starting lineup. I feel like now the new Black & Decker and Craftsman is like your Ryobi line or your Bauer line at Harbor Freight. So I still would advise staying away from your Hart tool, if it's even still available at this point, or your Black & Deckers. Because there is even a line at Harbor Freight, Warrior, that has a drill. It might not even make it past your first project.
Well, Greg, I love you, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just think there's a generational difference, at this moment, and I think you're right. You're kind of spoiled these days.
Yeah.
With the amount, they really have played well to the tool enthusiast, and even the younger, newer person to the tool. There's a lot of options out there.
Yeah.
So I think you look at it as, hey, why would I start at too low of a level? You know what I mean? Right. And there is some thoughts of that now. So that's where I think it's going to become personal, and whether again, if your first car was a Mercedes, you may go right into a tool line. Yeah. But if your first car had some dents and was a hand-me-down, I'm starting at the lower tool. But that's going to be a very personal, and it's going to be a budget-friendly situation.
I had another question though on this, and a lot of them come in a 2-pack now with the drill and the impact. Mm-hmm. Are you looking to get that impact, or are you going to hold off? And if you hold off, which one are you going to go with?
Well, that's, again, that would go right back to my budget. For me, it would be budget. The other thing that I do like, and that we have discussed in actually another podcast we did, which is a space issue. And we also, all these tools we speak about, where are you going to keep them? Okay, so, some of these tools will come in a packet of 6 tools, give you the casing for it. You know what I mean? I used to love having my tool in one case. You know what I mean? So when I first started out, I'd have my drill in one case. I'd have my router in another case. That was all you guys. Sooner or later, you start finding out that they want to hand you big tool, things. And I didn't love to grab an entire tool thing. And we probably could do an entire podcast on toolboxes these days and how much you really want to bring and how much you don't. But think about your budget friendly when you're on a job. How you want to be able to lugging these things around as well. So no, you may not need the hammer drill as well as the other drill at the same point, but I would look to what the best deal is. Battery life, because some of these things come in cheap batteries. Some of them, they come right with what are called the heavy duty batteries these days. Yeah. And that might be an idea of, and obviously more heavy duty and more power, the better, longer life of the battery, as well as the tool itself that you're using on the job. Yeah. So, I don't think there's a perfect answer for that. I think we leave that up to, our audience and the individual person to go with that. But those would be my thoughts.
Yeah. I probably, if I could get both, I would. If I can't, I would lean towards the drill, just because they have the clutch settings on it now, so you don't have to worry about stripping out a screw as much because you can set it properly. But also the ability to drill holes. Your impact is not made for that. So again, the versatility of the tools. One can kind of do both, one's more specialized and better at doing one project over the other. But like we said in the beginning of this, we're kind of trying to see the bare minimums. I'm going with the drill.
Yep, so that is, I mean, that is obvious. You can tell by the way we've spoken about it that those cordless tools, which I think we both agree because we jumped right past them, cordless,
Yes.
anytime
Yeah.
over the corded. In fact, you won't see a ton of corded tools anymore.
They're
It's
phasing out almost.
phasing out a lot because of the lithium-ion battery. So we would go there. So moving on from those. I think there's two other ones I want to bring up, and that is a stud finder. I think
Yes.
that's extremely important.
Where are you going to drill?
There you go. Right. Okay. Let's not put the cart in front of the horse here.
But
right.
when you're simply hanging a picture or putting maybe a TV up, you need to know if a stud's there or not, or some of them too will let you know if there's electrical lines there.
That is such an important, whether it's piping, electrical lines. I mean, these days pipes are sometimes plastic. They're not even metal. They're not even gonna give way to your drill bit going through them. So you definitely need the stud finder. You need to know where your electrical is, as well as I would say a set of Allen keys or Allen wrenches. This is where we talk about some of these bit sets, and you had spoken to me earlier. You were showing me one of your bit sets and the different types of screw heads that are out there now.
Yeah, with the security bits and all that.
Correct. They are starting to use so many different kind of bit heads that you're going to find yourself needing at least the basic of the flathead, the Phillips, and these Allen wrenches.
Yeah, and I mean, you can find those bit sets now for cheap. I mean, we just went to Harbor Freight yesterday.
Right.
And I bought a range. I bought actually a Hercules, Bauer, and a Warrior. And guess what? The Warrior's probably going to do fine because guess what? All three of them I'm going to end up losing.
Correct. And like I said, so here is where, when we talked about the screwdriver, you'd have, you want your full set, okay, individual. When you're talking about the Allen wrenches or the specialized screw heads, now this is where you probably can get, one that has a bit set with it. And they're exceptionally cheap. That's the beauty of that. So, that you're not price point out on this kind of thing. And you can have backup bits and, a bunch of them.
And piggybacking right off that is a set of drill bits. And you don't need to go expensive. I've had more expensive ones than cheaper ones, and I've snapped plenty of them.
Correct.
That's going to happen no matter what quality you buy. Whether maybe I was pushing it a little too hard or putting it into a harder wood than I should have, but you're probably going to snap a few. You at least need to get a set of drill bits in there. Whether hanging, even just hanging a picture on a wall, you need to drill out that, and not all those plug kits come with its own drill bit.
Oh yeah. Well, let's talk about an old school one that is slowly being replaced. Is the handsaw.
Yeah.
All right. You're gonna, the handsaw is something back to the lumberjack days and is quickly being replaced by the Sawzall. That we know about. This would go into if you have the money to go buy a Sawzall as well. The handsaw is something that you're going to use for all your cutting needs. I mean, you're going to be cutting PVC pipe. You're going to be cutting the wood for a project. You may even need a metal cut handsaw.
Yeah, the hacksaws.
Correct. So figure out your price budget on that, because if you're going to use a hand tool, that means you're trying to keep it a little cheap. If you can include the Sawzall with your battery operated tools, you're gonna love that.
I actually was thinking, I thought about hand saws, and they're not the easiest thing to use. You really got to get the cut started and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
But I was thinking, a new homeowner might be needing to cut 2x4s here and there or anything. I thought a circular saw.
Yeah, circular saw. Yeah, again, circular saw, big project. So now as far as a first-time home buyer, are you fixing the small things around your house, or are you looking to renovate right off the bat? Some people buy a home and they're like, hey, I got to renovate this room. I'm going to do some kitchen, changes. I want to build a bar in my basement first thing. So I mean, in that matter, if you're thinking big, I think circular saw.
I was actually thinking though too, a great thing to do when you first buy a home is putting that workbench in your garage.
Yes.
And a circ saw, it's a simple. You can just do butt joints on a 2x4. Put a piece of plywood across it. There's your workbench. But that circ saw is going to come in handy in something like that, and it's used. It's used a lot.
Yes.
To save though, that is one tool you can still get corded.
Yeah. Well, I think and depending on the project and the wood, you're going to want it corded.
Yeah.
I've known that my circular saw was probably my biggest battery drainer of all my electric tools.
Yeah.
And my cordless tools. So I shouldn't say electric, cordless tools. It was the biggest battery drainer I've ever had. Now, again, upgrading to the lithium ion helped out a lot. But if you're going to truly be doing a large project where you're cutting multiple boards, 4x8 sheets, depending on the type of wood, you're going to want to get yourself corded one of those.
All right, before we start going even further into the path, there was a couple on my list that wasn't on yours, and correct me if you just maybe didn't get to these yet, but one of them that I thought was a good utility knife.
Oh, yes, that actually, that's essential.
Right.
And you want to talk about essential.
The ones that you change the blade on with the razor blade.
Absolutely.
Just because it stays sharp. You and I both have our utility knives, our pocket knives on them, but we use those. They get dull. There's plenty of jobs that you need a sharp blade. Those utility knives, you can easily buy like 100 pack of the blades. Always have a nice sharp blade to do anything with.
Absolutely.
And then go back with, the adjustable wrenches and stuff like that. A good socket set with the metric and standard. This can be as cheap as you want because I've had some of the cheapest sets and I still have them and the sockets still haven't been busted. But even, once again, I'm going to plug Harbor Freight. Their lower lines, a lot of them do have lifetime warranties on them. So if it's something like that, get a small set of those. To your point, when you're putting together even furniture and stuff like that, the tools that those things, if they give you tools to put it's just going to give you a headache.
Oh, yeah.
And make that project take twice as long. So once you get the adjustable wrench, start looking at your wrench sets, but also your socket sets, I think are great. I would say, I wouldn't say you need a 1/2 inch socket set. I think a 3/8 pretty much covers what you need. You might need a 1/4 inch as well to maybe start getting down in those smaller bolts, but again, those have those little tiny packs that can cover you.
And the ratchets that come with those are fantastic. Speed up a job so fast besides putting a wrench on anything like that.
And then even if you're not wanting to get into electrical, if it's something you're not comfortable with, that you're always going to hire an electrician, I still think you should get like one of those non-contact volt check, or you don't need to get like a meter, I feel like, but even just those little sticks that you can tell, because if you have, say when your blender is not working, right? Do you know if it's the blender or if it's the outlet? It might be just a GFCI trip somewhere. You can take that, check that outlet. If there's no power to the outlet, now you know your blender's good.
Absolutely.
And you can essentially diagnose, and now you know, okay, maybe it's still something I can tackle, or maybe it's something I need to hire an electrician now.
Yeah, I've actually been at the big box stores, and they got some beautiful stick ones that you can literally stick into the socket on one side and test out your wiring on the other. And that's those are cheap, they're quick. And for somebody who hasn't worked a whole lot of electrical, you'll at least be able to diagnose a problem, which is always some of the hardest thing to do. You need to know where that problem's coming from. And electricity scares a lot of people. So, and you need to be protective about yourself. These things, these tools will protect you as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want a vacuum, okay, which is,
Shop
again,
vac.
a shop
Yes.
vac, not your house vacuum.
No.
Okay?
Your wife will kill you.
Or you'll destroy that thing quicker than and you'll be purchasing there. Get yourself a good shop vac.
Yeah.
And don't, like I said, depending on, you need to be somebody who needs it spot cleaned with like maybe a HEPA filter. If you're going to be doing drywall and things like that, or you just want a space saver one, get a shop vac.
Yeah.
A lot of times a shop vac will also be a wet vac, which also helps in emergency situations.
To your point, too, about the shop vac, I would definitely get a wet dry.
Okay.
Just because of your hot water tank goes in your basement, it's leaking on the floor. You just pull that thing out, suck up that water, and
Yeah,
the crisis
and
averted. Right?
You will never look back once that, and that's one of those jobs, a one-off, pays for the entire thing.
Yeah.
Inevitably, I've had homes, and every one of them, hey, has there ever been a flood in this home to the realtor? No, there's never been last owner, it's never been a flood. That's been the driest basement ever. 2 weeks into my ownership, 3 months into my ownership, first winter, get the wet vac.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
I know back in the day, the rigid ones were like the go-to from
Yeah.
Home Depot. Now the Bauer ones over at Harbor Freight have really price point great, and they're performing quite well. So there's two to kind of think about, especially when you're in entry level. That can be a really good, not only money saver, but man, when you're in a pinch.
Yeah. Don't make us take another trip to Harbor Freight.
Glad you have that one.
Yep. I would say in this same category, I would put a bunch of extension cords.
Yeah, at least a couple extension cords.
Maybe a 50-footer.
Yeah. Depending on where your outlets are outside, maybe a 100-footer if you got some distance you got to cover. But I think a 50-footer would pretty much cover you.
Yep.
But I feel like you need a couple.
Yeah, I do too. I think, and again, I mean, the 100-footer and the 50-footer might cost you something if you're going heavy duty, but some of the 10-footers, they're giving them away at a lot of these big box stores. So continuing on, Greg, I do think there's some storage and some essential kind of like let's say more heftier tools you would need, and I would think that would be, let's say, the ladder.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, you're probably going to start with a 6-foot ladder. You can determine if you need to go higher than that, depending if you've got a big garage or you need to get up on the roof. But that's going to be one of the essential, but it's considered a little bit bigger.
I got them all, right?
Yes, you do.
I got like the 30-foot extension ladders. I got the big A-frame. I got the 6-footer, and I got the 2-step stool inside. I think the most used are probably that two-step.
Oh yeah, the step ladder.
Or the A-frame, and to your point, the 6-footer. Pretty much is gonna.
Yeah, that's gonna do you for most about everything. And again, most homeowners are gonna have an attic that they might have to get up and into, and that's a great way to get up in there.
Now that we went through our little list there, I'm sure like me, you got an honorable mention that could have made the list, but you just didn't quite put it in there.
Oh, sure. I actually call these my level up tool. I mean, again, depending on who you are and what your price budget is, there are some, like you said, honorable mention tools that you have these. Now you're really taking care of all the projects in your house. You're not leaving things to, going to a gas station to get renting a tool, stuff like this. So my honorable mentions.
Did you have some that I had already said that were in your honorable mentions?
Yeah, I had the multimeter.
Okay.
I mean, you mentioned that we don't have to go there, but if we were, and you wanted to really kind of diagnose more electrical things, a nice little multimeter that you can measure your alternating currents from your direct currents, can be very helpful in certain projects, depending on what you're comfortable diagnosing. I thought that was a big one. The socket set, absolutely. I mean, you can get large socket sets, small ones to just do a certain amount of basic fixes. Some specialty ones, some deep sockets. If you're going to start doing automobile stuff, because they can, like I said, a lot of our tools we talk about here, they may be basic, but they also can be used in different functions.
Yeah.
And so use your price point on that. But one of my big honorable mentions is a compressor.
Yep.
I mean, if we really want to talk about a universal tool that can do so many things, from blowing your garage out of leaves to all the bike tires to car tires to all the kids' toys blow up. You got a slip and slide. That thing will take care of that thing in a minute. And the different sizes out there will be something. But that's one of my big honorable mentions. I think that essentially to a garage for me is a compressor.
I would say, to your point too, with the size ranges as well, for a first-time home, just the little pancakes.
Oh yeah,
I think those are great. They come in like 3 or 6 gallon. I don't like when you're talking in like the 8 gallon range. We've talked in a previous podcast. My thought on that is you're sizing yourself where you're getting too big to be portable and too small to run big stuff.
Right.
And so start with the pancake, great thing, and then as you grow, maybe get the big boy in the garage.
Sure. I mean, and again, now you're looking at your pneumatic tools and something, you can really hook a couple other paint sprayers and things onto those.
Now, yeah, I got another one that for me, in my personal experience, I added to my tool collection pretty early, and I used it a heck of a lot. It was a chop saw or a miter saw. You don't need to get the sliding miter saws are great. You don't really need to get into that. If you can just use the stationary chop saw. A 10-inch would be fine. 12-inch, I have 12-inch, and I loved it with the slide, so I could really do a lot of stuff on it. But for just your basic person, like I said, you're starting with the circ saw, but man, having a stationary miter station is awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, every home I've ever owned, I went into with the mindset that projects were coming. Yeah. In fact, I think every home, I'm not sure if I've ever bought what they call, turnkey home, where everything's already set and done. Maybe that'll be in my retirement days when I'm done with this. But every new home starts with a project. I'd be surprised if most homes that people think are turnkey are going to essentially need a project. And if you come across something that's you're really going to get into, a chop saw is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and kind of in that same realm, the oscillating tools, like the multi tools. I think those have come in really handy when it's come. Little things around the house, if I just need to zip off a little bit, shave off a little bit here or there, great tool to have on hand.
Yeah, I mean,
not necessary, but convenient.
But definitely a luxury tool. But you're right. I mean, it can do anything from cutting something off to grinding something down. Absolutely pivotal things. But I think our homeowners, as they get through some of the basic projects, they're going to find that a more versatile tool, like maybe one of the oscillating tools, are going to be the way to go in the future.
Yeah.
So, and as we talk about this, we do want to kind of circle back in the fact that these are first-time tool buys for first-time projects, first-time home buyers, and the beauty of it is that we know this very much so. And as I receive tools from my father that were old and rusty, you don't really get rid of all your tools.
Never.
You build up on them. Mm-hmm. And so when you're investing in these, don't throw away those old tools. Keep them around the house. Put together a couple toolboxes in some important locations, and then, like I said, you'll have your throwaway tools and you'll have your project tools. So this is the beginning of the journey.
Well, I hope this list kind of helps you think about what you want to add to your tool list as you're in that venture, looking at maybe purchasing your first home, or you already have done it. So this is just like Jay just said. This is a journey. You are never done buying tools. You're always going to be growing. You're always going to be coming across new projects, but at least this gives you a good base to start that on. Please, though, if you're watching this video, leave in the comments below tools that maybe we left off our list that you guys thought was probably one of the more important tools that you got when you first purchased your home and you used quite a bit. Also, again, share ones that you're like, hey, I could have waited some time on this. I didn't need it. Or back to our previous one, I could have rented it. So things to think about.
And remember, don't be afraid of the combination tools that they have out there that you can buy that will have your hammer, your screwdrivers, a whole set if you want to.
Yes.
However, in our life, we found out that buying specific tools in maybe 3 screwdriver sets, 3 wrench sets, sometimes you can get a little bit better quality. But again, first tools, beginner tools, price appropriate tools as you're starting out, depending on your budget. So we truly appreciate any stories you have or situations that you got yourself into where maybe you thought you had all the tools and oops, you didn't. Feel free to put those into the comments, and we're always open to hear, and we'll be responding to them.
Yeah. So once again, thank you for watching the video. Thanks for buzzing by, and you all take care.
Take care.